Hello, Aces. I was just about to say, is there anybody out there? And there you pop. First one in the room tonight, Aces. Well, there's 6 in the room, but first one to talk. Dance Dead Piper. How you doing? Pipe John, good evening. How are you? Ooh, it looks like you're a Chariton man. I see your logo. Chariton. Are you a Chariton man, John? Steve, how you doing? You are a Chariton man. Well, I never got into the Charitons because I don't think I've ever had one actually, even before I went 9mm, but now I don't know if I'd ever find. There may be the odd, excuse me, there may be the odd 1 or 2 out there which people have converted, but I don't know if the original Chariton actually did 9mm. I'm not talking about the Chariton from nowadays. Hi Toledo. Piper 85. Wonder what happened to the other 84. Bona Piper, how you doing? Just getting started. I wasn't expecting actually to be on tonight. If you follow in any of my morning drives, you'll know that I've been having a bit of a torrid time with British Telecom, BT, in getting my internet back up. But thankfully, it is up, as you can see. If I would have been really desperate, I would have used my mobile data plan, but I was eating into it so much that I probably wouldn't have. So what are we smoking so far, people? High Desert Pine Piper. I'm doing well, thank you. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, WV Cigars. It's Fidance. I don't think I've tried that. Oh, that's a Samuel Goeth, isn't it? I have tried it. Didn't care for it much at the time, but who knows what I would think about it nowadays. Everything, I have to taste again, because when I first tried stuff, number 1, I was getting tongue bite. Number 2, I just didn't have a refined enough palate. I'm not saying my palate is refined now, but it's certainly more experienced than it was then. The pipe at the end, yeah, it's not quite the end, it's one before the end. This is one I made not so long ago. Dublin, freehand Dublin, I guess you'd call it. It's got some lovely grain on it. This is the one that I cracked the shank, as you could see when it decides to focus, right there, which I had to glue back, but it smokes very well. It's a good pipe. Haunted Bookshop. Never did quite get the hang of Haunted Bookshop either. If I remember correctly, Tim, the Fidance to me just seemed very generic Virginia to me, like cigarette-y. I don't know if you found the same. That's alright, Desert Pine. We're all used to typos. Hey Grobnub. Smoking Louisiana Broken. I smoked that the other day. It was nice. And a Millennium Falcon. Very nice grub knob. Well, I had a job this evening, so I didn't really spend much time in the workshop this evening, but I did spend about half an hour just redoing a couple of pipes. And believe it or not, Pipe 71 has now had its third rendition. And this one, I could still see myself tweaking, but I finished it to such a high sheen that it would be a shame to spoil it, but I'll show that to you in a minute. And then I took two of my other pipes that I'd made within the last few months, and one of them is actually quite a few months ago, and reworked that, just tightened up the shape and repolished it. And then one of the other ones also repolished. I'll show you those soon. Before I do that, I actually haven't had a pipe yet tonight, and there's a reason for that. I did get a bunch of stuff in from Boswell's, which I haven't ordered from for quite some time. I didn't make a huge order, and it did get stopped. It did get stopped by customs, but in actual fact it did not get stopped for customs and excise. I just got charged for handling, which I think is really, it's a bit of a rip-off, to be honest. You know, if they stop you and they nab you for customs, fair enough. But if you get zero charge for custom and excise, then they charge you £14 for handling fee for Royal Mill plus VAT. I do think that's a little bit of a liberty. So, this is what I got. One item which I'm sure you can all guess that I got from High North East Pipery. One item I'm sure you can all guess, and that is some Northwoods, 4 ounces, just to re-up, so to speak. I picked up some of these shank brushes and some flints. I don't think I've used these shank brushes before, so I'm curious to see if that makes any difference to my cleaning. It was VAT on the package, Tim, you're quite right. Still think it's a rip-off. Got a tub of Pipe Masters Clean and Cure, just to sweeten estate pipes or even my own pipes up. A pair of knockers, boom boom, with adhesive tabs. Got some lovely looking roundels, medallions, coins, bullseye flake, Peter Stockerby. They do look good, these coins. Cavendish Centre. I'll have to let them sit for a while. NJ Piper, how you doing? McBaron HH Latakia Flake. Haven't tried that yet. And the final one, which I think I'm going to crack tonight, is this Former's Straight Grain Flake, which I assume is a straight Virginia, but it's supposed to be pretty good. Boswell's got an interesting selection of tobacco, and I check in every so often to see what they've got besides for their own tobaccos. And every so often they come up with something interesting. I mean, all the stuff is interesting, but I thought this looked interesting. So Tobacco Reviews says that it's a vapor. It's a Virginia Perique, no flavourings, and the strength is medium to strong. Ooh, okay. And it's got some good ratings, generally speaking. I haven't actually read them, but I'm looking at the stars, and they're pretty good. I'd imagine this one will need to also be left to sit for a bit. Artisan's blend for Grobnob. Latakia flake. Any recommendations for a mild English? Where are you based, Grobnob? Are you in Germany or in the UK? Aren't you UK based? I think you can buy from Estival's in Germany, their Darmstadt. If I'm not mistaken, they do send to the USA. You are the UK, yeah, I thought so. Special Latakia flake, you could try that. That's a nice, if you're looking for something mild-ish, that's pretty good. But it's quite heavy on the Virginia, which, you know, it's probably ideal if you could let it age a little bit. Very good, Grobnob. NJ, superiority is probably not a fair word. Preference is probably a better word. You know, we all have our own preferences. So for some people, plum pudding would be better. Plum pudding is a really nice blend. But just for me, Northwoods is just the one that I just keep going back to. Hey Daniel, how you doing? Hey Chad. So basically, I think I'm going to give this a crack. I do like Vapors, and this is, as I say, one I saw on Boswell's website, and I thought I'd give it a try. So here we go. Oh, do you want to see the pipes first, or should we get this loaded into a pipe first? Did somebody say John? Ah, John Williams is in the house, the bearded Welshman. That's a very dedicated visitor tonight. I hope you're doing well, John. I hope you're recovering well. Alright, well, let's get it open first. I'll show you the other pipes soon. Drugs are good, they certainly are, although I keep away from them as much as possible. But I'm one of these guys who I'll put up with pain and discomfort and symptoms as long as I can before I insert drugs into my body. But when I do need to, I certainly will. See, oftentimes when I'm working at a wedding and it's been a particularly long day and hard day, sometimes I'm on a ladder quite a lot to get these high level shots. And it takes its toll on my back, and I've got some really strong meds in case I need them from previous sort of prescriptions that I've had from my doctor, and I keep them with me. If I need them, I take them, but I try to stay off them as much as I can. So this is the Formers straight grain flake. That's a big old flake. Got a classic vapor aroma, plummy, fruity and plummy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 flakes, and they are really big, broad flakes. Flakes look nice, dark bits, bright bits, medium brown bits. It looks like a good balance there. You got to be careful when you're taking a cocktail of meds. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this, But when you're taking a cocktail of meds, the balance, you got to be so careful. I had that with my mum recently. She was she's undergoing treatment, and they had her on a whole cocktail of medication. And because of her age, she, you know, people who are heading towards elderly life, they're always on one med or another, and the stuff they gave her just completely put her out of kilter, and she was just going downhill. Her heart was all over the place, and she was just conking out. She was fainting and passing out and that kind of stuff, till they managed to get the right thing, you know, the right mixture. It took them time. It took them a good few worrying weeks, I have to say. And now at least she's just getting on with taking her, going through the cycles of medication that she has to take for the next few months. And hopefully that will go well. Yes, indeed, Band-Aid. That's the results of trying to make some pipes. Alright, so let me show you some of the pipes. So these are all pipes that you've seen before, but I've just done some reworking on them. So the one that you've seen recently more than any other pipe is pipe 71, but I've reworked it once again. Not the shaping or anything like that, but just the finish. So it's got a black undercoat with like a reddish maroonish kind of top coat, and I've given it a very high sheen. And I think I should leave it there. I was thinking maybe to just sand a few spots here and there and make them more red, brighter, but I think I should just perhaps leave it there. I'm not sure. What do you think, guys? Leave it there or tinker a bit more? Thanks, Daniel. You can see the reddish kind of colour coming through. You know what's interesting is that, you know, rusticated pipes tend to be cheaper than smooth pipes, but I find so much more work goes into a rusticated pipe, especially one that you're doing part smooth, part rusticated. And this one, I love the contrast between the bowl and the rim. I really like having smooth rims with rusticated bowl. It really just, I find it just works very well. It's the reason why I did it on the lump of coal. The same thing there. I just like the way, the contrast between the rough texture, the dark black rough texture, and the smooth brighter texture. So that's the first one. Some nice bird's eye on there. Yeah, I'm probably going to make some more of those lump coals. Everybody seems to like them. And they just, you know, that darkness, I don't know, it just has a certain appeal to it. It's also the fact that it's matte. I think that also is part of it, because kind of your sight is like, gets lost in the blackness, if you like, whereas black, shiny black, reflects. So I don't want to sound too poetic here, but if you look at that, this black absorbs your vision and this one reflects it. And I just like the way that does that. And you've got every so often a slightly bit of sheen there which catches the light. It just works really well. So that was the first one I reworked again. And then this one here is one which you've seen before, and the grain on this one is just, I think it's spectacular personally. Did a darker stain again with a brighter rim. and it is quite, it's got a bit of a matte look to it. Just look at this grain. It's got a very fiery looking grain. As soon as the phone decides to focus, there you go. The grain on this one is really quite spectacular. So what I did with this one was just I buffed it up without anything on it at all, and then I put some carnauba on it, but it's still quite matte looking, and that's, I don't know, I do find that some briars shine up better than others. Also depends on the finish and the layers beneath the carnauba, but I just love the grain on this pipe. This will be a fantastic smoker. It's lightweight, be a good pipe. And the final one is one which you'll have seen quite some time ago. This one I sanded right back, and I've taken off all the staining, and it was natural before as well, but it's just came out beautiful. I've had to sort of just polish up the shaping. You know, with experience you just learn where to sort of sand out the bits that you've missed before, and those are the two bits there which nothing I can do about, but they're really nice and smooth. There's no actual hole there or anything, it's just the briar. Here again, really nice flame grain. And what I spent the most time on is the button. I've kind of developed a shape of a button which I like, and I'm kind of doing that now to all the new pipes that I make. So there's the side profile, and there's the front of it. It's like a very rounded, it's like I do them rounded from that edge, top edge, to the bottom edge. It's just one continuous sort of like a half circle, and it's really, really comfortable. I need to clean that out a bit, it's got dust in there. Yeah, so that's the third pipe that I redid. Basically there was a little sort of undulations here on the shank and over here on the bowl. It wasn't perfectly sanded, but it is now. It's a lovely shape, and it's really been implemented really well. I like it a lot. It looks like a pipe should look. I think the drilling on this one was okay, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's right at the bottom of the bowl. This one is like it's like a UV shape. It's not quite a U, it's not quite a V. It's somewhere in between. And the drill is perfect. If nobody, I mean, I haven't shown this pipe for a long time. I showed it when I first made it. I haven't really showed it since, but excuse me, if it doesn't sell, it's definitely one that I'll be tempted to go for myself. It's just a classic pipe. I don't know what shape you'd call this. Would you call that a brandy? Not quite an apple. I suppose it's a billiard-ish with a bit of a wider base. Right, let me just look at the messages. I haven't seen them for a while. Right, who have we got here? Snoopy1X, hi, thank you for joining. Kenro, how you doing? Joe, Jeff, how's everybody doing? Tree, thank you all for joining. So those are the three pipes there that I've just been reworking. And I think we're going to load up a pipe. That's what we're trying out for the first time. Former's straight grain flake. And I think I will try it in the Northern Briars Quebec. There we go. The Quebec, which is often used as a testing pipe for me. Excuse me. Daniel, have I thought about making a P-lip button? No, I haven't. And there's one good reason for it. I don't like them. But besides for anything else, I would be pretty sure that it would need a special kind of machine to do that. Because the thing with a P-lip is that the end is closed. So to do it, you'd have to be able to drill through the shank, stop just about there, then drill from the top and make sure you don't make any mistakes. I'm pretty sure it's all cast by machine. It's pre-molded, it must be. And that's not something that I could do. I wouldn't want to anyway. Hey, Scott Nickman. Yeah, so this is one of the 3 pipes that I just reworked and redid this evening. Just give it a new finish. And that's a lovely pipe. Beautiful grain, really stunning grain. So for those of you who didn't see, this is version 3 of pipe 71. So a black background with a slightly purple reddish kind of tinge to the top of it. So this is going to be probably about 1/3 of a bowl, just to see what it's like first of all. Ooh, Chad smoked his new pipe. How was it, Chad? Shape of pipe that I still want to make. Well, I still haven't done a diamond shank bulldog. What do you think about the actual P-lip itself, Grobnob, compared to standard bit? You sound surprised, Chad. Jeff, what size file are you uploading there? Hey, Josh. I've tried the P-lip as well, but I also didn't enjoy it. And I never repeated since then. You tasted things you hadn't tasted before, Chad. Like what? What did you smoke in it? Did you smoke Haunted Bookshop? Old Joe Krantz. Okay. Maybe it was the new briar that you were tasting. I assume it was pre-coated, the bowl. Do you have any traditions that you go through when you break in a new pipe, Chad? I'm trying to remember the last pre-coated pipe that I've actually broken in. Probably one of the Petersons, probably one of the Stanwells that I got from Danish Pipe Shop, I'd imagine. But all the other recent pipes I think that I've got were bare. The ones that I got from Northern Brides, usually I order them naked. And the pipes that I make certainly are all naked. But I am going to look into bowl coatings. Because you've got to give people options. Well, you don't have to. You can do things your way, but I guess it's no harm in it. I've never actually heard of anybody burning out their pipe the first time round, though, Chad. I mean, I'm sure it's correct that you have to be careful. Although I have read stories about it. Pipe Stud, Steve Fallon. He runs an eBay shop and he has his website, Pipe Stud. And in the Pipe Collector magazine, he always, every so often, puts in an article with the stories that he has of people who have bought pipes from him and wanted to return them for one reason or another. And he likes to share the humorous ones. One of the funny ones is somebody bought a Peterson P-lip pipe off him. It was an estate pipe, and when the guy got it, he was shocked to learn that somebody had already smoked it. And he said he smoked it and had a funny taste. So Steve wrote him back and said, "Do you know what the P of P-lip stands for?" So he said it was a reservoir for people to pee in. Hence the bad taste. Definitely got to diversify skills. I will be starting to develop my own bowl coating soon enough. I did buy a bunch of charcoal, but I bought tablets by mistake and not powder, so I've got to get some of that. What's the pipe on your rack with the orange swirly stem? So you guys may remember, this is a pipe that I made a while back, which I went through. Did I put it online? The making of this pipe? Was this the pipe? I think it was. Where I put the whole story of the making of this pipe, and it went through various iterations and frustrations. I had to cut off the whole shank for various reasons. Anyway, I just worked hard to salvage it as a pipe, and it ended up really looking really quite nice. A nice little nose warmer. I take it with me when I go out with the family usually, and it really actually looks fantastic. It's got a really nice sort of solid feel to it, nice grain. The rim is really nice. It's got a solid look to it, and if I would contrast stainless, it would produce some really nice grain, but I just sometimes like leaving them natural. Really, Jeff? That's good to hear. I've still got a bit of that Thanksgiving tobacco left. I was never that enamoured with it myself, to be honest. The tobacco is pretty good, Desert Pine, considering that I've just cracked it in. The Virginias are a little bit generic at the moment, but I've only literally, as I say, just cracked it in now. I reckon in a few months' time, after this has been in a jar, this will be a lot nicer, a lot tastier, and the flavours will have focused a lot better. I was wondering why my ears were burning, Chad. I hope it was all good things. So what were you talking about? Let's hear. My website address, I don't have one yet, believe it or not. I don't have a website as yet. Cigar knowledge. Well, that's a bit of a contradiction in terms. You can never learn enough about cigars, and the same with pipes. Daniel, I can't answer that question. You can ask me what is my favourite tobacco today. That's about as best as you can get, because it's different every time. At the moment, what would I reach for? Well, if it was a Latakia, you know the answer to that. It would be Northwoods, probably. And in terms of Virginias and Vapors and that kind of thing, I'm kind of re-exploring my selection that I have. I've been smoking some of the Sutliff blends and the Three Nuns Green I've had recently. Stuff which I kind of discovered about a year or two ago, and just have moved on to other things in between. So I'm kind of going back a little bit. I'm a little bit in a funny place at the moment, Virginia-wise. And I've been smoking cigars a little bit more as well. I'm not quite sure where I am at the moment with Virginias. King of cigars? No way. I have very limited knowledge when it comes to cigars, and when it comes to non-Cubans, definitely I know nothing. You have been saying that for a while now, Tim, about your RB plug. Well, let's see, Chad. It would be two of them I can think of, obviously. There's Old Joe Krantz and Haunted Bookshop. I'm not sure about any of the others. Let's hear. If you like Latakia blends, I would always recommend Northwoods to anybody. Black X, the ropes. Well, I haven't really ever gotten into the ropes and the pigtails and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll have to try that RB plug again. I can't remember if I've still got a little square of it somewhere. Rocky Patel, Daniel, I'm not a fan of. I find them to be too peppery for me, most of the time. It doesn't mean to say that I won't ever find one that I like, but generally speaking, I find them to be too peppery. And AJ Fernandez, that's just such a huge company. They have so many subsidiaries as well. So you'd have to talk about a particular AJ Fernandez cigar, and I've pretty much got limited experience, and I don't recall the ones that I have smoked. When I first started getting into cigars, and I was very frustrated with Cuban cigars, I smoked an awful lot of non-Cubans, and I really did start to get to know them at the time. But then I discovered 9mm pipes, and I kind of hardly smoked them anymore. And if I am, I'm smoking Cubans most of the time, with a few exceptions, such as the Oliva, Serie V Milanos, the Undercrown cigars. I really do rate quite highly. And if I had some, I would smoke the Padrons, that kind of thing. But I could buy a Padron here in the UK, but they're stupid money. Golden Extra, really? Okay. Should I Smoke This is actually, I do enjoy his videos. I've been watching them for a long time, although I haven't watched them recently, but when I first discovered him, I watched every single one of his videos. They're well edited, they're to the point, and I used to watch the 1 minute videos. He does 1 minute version and a 10-minute version of the same cigar. So the 1 minute one is obviously a very heavily priced version of the 10-minute one, and that's good enough for me. But to be honest, I do find his description to be a little bit too out there, and it doesn't tell me much. As much as it's detailed and descriptive, as you say, you're quite right, Ken. But I find them to be too, the types of flavors that he describes them. I just can't, in my mind, put that all together and imagine what the flavor is going to be like. It's just too vague for me. That's a good question, Daniel. I guess it would depend on what mood I'm in, and if I'd been smoking a Cuban cigar that day. If it was just in a shop and I was going to get one cigar and smoke it then, I may well go for the Padron because I hadn't had one for so long that I'd want to try it again. But generally speaking, I would probably go for the Cuban. But I do find that the non-Cubans can get a lot more flavour, a lot more complexity than the Cubans. But the Cubans I find are just more to my palate. They're much smoother, and they just got this lovely sweet tang to it, which it's a Cuban type of flavour which you just don't get in non-Cubans very rarely. One of the cigars actually recently which I found which are pretty close is the, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't rate their cigars normally, and that is the Davidoff Late Hour, that one with the Churchill, picture of Churchill on it. I might even have one here somewhere knocking around, but that is a very good cigar. Really have enjoyed every one of those that I've had. And the good thing about the non-Cubans is that you can enjoy them straight away. The Cubans, you've got to let them age a bit, and the non-Cubans will also benefit from age, but you can smoke them and enjoy them straight away, which is a big advantage. And the construction is always going to be fantastic on a non-Cuban cigar. And the Cubans nowadays are pretty good, but you still quite often will get a really tight draw on a cigar. Yeah, Grobnob, in the beginning when I first discovered Bradley, it was really early on for me, so it was good to get all that detail, but now I just don't watch his stuff anymore. It's too long-winded. I imagine people would say that about mine as well, although I haven't really done that many reviews or videos of cigars and blends lately. What do you think of the Late Hour, Jeff? Hey, North Country? Cigar Obsession. I used to watch him. But a lot of these guys, they've gone sort of either Patreon, or it's the same with I don't know. Have you smoked this? He went Patreon at one stage, and I think he's come back now. I'm not sure. Maybe it didn't work out for him, because when it comes to it, as soon as people start to ask for money, a lot of people are not interested. They go on YouTube to get free information, and that's why I've, even before the whole demonetization, I never ever monetized my channel, because I don't like watching people's adverts. I don't like people asking me for money on YouTube. I'm always happy to help, of my own volition, and people, friends, on the YTPC, when certain situations arise, if I feel it, then I'll go for it. I've got no problem with that. But when people are sort of coming to you open-handed, it just turns me the wrong way, really. You'll all recall that whole episode with Mutton Chop at the time. I don't know if he has invested in new computers, if his videos are any different, or if they are better produced. But as a result of the money that he got, he was supposed to have got new computers. I don't know if he did or didn't, and good luck to him. He has been a huge service to a lot of people, but I don't know if he actually, as soon as it started, as soon as he got to that point where he was asking people for money, I just got turned off. Yeah, well, the live stuff is long-winded and rambling, but I'm not reviewing. I'm not putting this up as a review. And to be honest, my reviews sometimes are long-winded. That's just me. If you don't like it, then people shouldn't watch them. And the same with stuff and things. I don't like it, so I don't watch it. It's a free choice. You do what you want. Very, very wise words as always there from Chad. Speaking about personalities, incidentally, I'm hoping to be meeting Andrew Sirigliano tomorrow. He's here in the UK at the moment, and we've made a tentative arrangement for tomorrow evening. Hopefully it'll happen. I've already mentioned it to Erin Dawes, and I didn't get any opposition. So hopefully that will happen. I have a job tomorrow afternoon, but I've worked out that that's going to finish early enough. So hopefully that will be a nice, cool meeting. I'll have to get some stuff together to take with me. So that should be fun. Might even try and do that live if it's possible. Hey, Mike, how you doing? It would be very cool to hook up. So far I've been quite lean on the hookups. I've met with Stephen, Tim's dad, and I obviously met people at the pipe shows in Nottingham, and recently met Toking Tommy and Phil at the Pipe Club of London, although I wasn't able to go, the one that happened just now on Tuesday. Who else have I met? I've met Tree. I met him at the Nottingham Pipe Show, but I also arranged to meet him we met up at one of his famous car boot sales, which was nice. Who else have I met? I've met Izzy when I went to Israel to visit my married kids. Happy Go Lucky Piper, met him. Although that was tainted in the end. I'll tell you about that in a sec. This is actually becoming a very nice smoke. It has got an absolutely fiery retrohale. It's almost like a cigar on the retrohale. Very strong. Man, this is powerful. This is it's got a really strong retrohale. Do they stare at my hands? Yeah. Is it really you? Show me your hands. Would I ever go to Canada? Put it this way, if I would get on a plane, fly that far, I'd probably go to the US. But no reason not to go to Canada. I've got some family there actually. I've got family in Montreal. I've actually got family in all four corners of the world. I've got family in Australia, in America, Canada, Israel, France, Belgium, where else? I can't think of any others now. But it's quite a few different countries. But no reason not to come to Canada, I guess, Daniel, other than the long flight. Well, guys, if you like your vapors and you like them strong, I would say give this a try. If you're in the US, you can order it from Boswell's. That's where I got it. And it is some pokey stuff once you get down the bowl a bit. It smokes well. Haven't had to relight it really. Very deep, Grobnob, very deep. Great face for radio. My wife tells me that I'm two-faced, one for the radio and one for the videos, except nobody ever sees it. Look who the cat dragged in. OCD Piper is in the house. How you doing, OCD? And they'll let anybody in onto these shows. The coin tobacco is the Peter Stockerby Bullseye Flake. I'm not sure if I have ever actually smoked this, but I expect it to be very similar to all the other type of medallions, coins. Hi Boris, that's a good question. So far, I've always preferred to rub them out, but I don't rub them out really very heavily. I roughly sort of just about rub them out, so they're still quite stringy and not down to dust, you know, and I find that works best for me. But I suppose everybody has their own way. Some people will fold and stuff certain flakes and rub out certain flakes, and some people will blitz it in the coffee grinder. Where is my phone? Am I going mad? I'd probably have to go with Flake as well, you know. You know, Josh, I although my kind of thing is not to be seen, I don't get too hung up about it. We had a whole big to-do, actually, with some guy at the Pipe Club. Who was basically complaining that I take videos, and said he would come to the club. He was communicating to and fro with the treasurer, and he said that he would come to the club were it not for the fact that I was recording the video. So at the time I offered, you know, if he just comes to me at the beginning and says please do not record me, I'll respect it, no problem. I'm not here to looking to give anybody any grief. But obviously it's good for the club to be publicised and for people to see it. So he wrote back and said, well, it's a bit hypocritical because Simon himself goes anonymously, yet he goes around recording other people. So then I realised that it was really some issue that he had with me and not about the principle of it. And I just simply responded, precisely, the fact that I can be part of the club and remain anonymous should give you confidence that you could do the same. You could be anonymous, and all the people who are in the videos know that I take the videos, and if any of them don't want to be in the video, they say so. Nobody's forcing you to be in there. But so far he hasn't joined. Hey Ken. No, Chad. I think you've got to the gist of it there. Possibly got a friend called Jeremy. I do have a beard. At the moment it's really short. Currently smoking, for the first time, Former's Straight Grain Flake. Here's my beard. It's a bit spiky at the moment. No. Nice pipe, right? My daughter is doing well, thank you. Although interestingly, she's actually in my room again tonight because she wasn't feeling that great, but she's okay. Good for you, Daniel. Are the police after me? Might be. This tobacco is really good. Recommend it. Almost done. Easy once you know how, I guess. No, I'm just showing off, aren't I? Anyway, so I was saying before, about my trip to Israel. Enough of my boring old face. James Bornstein. Anyhow, hey Jeffrey. So I went to, when my son had his baby boy, his second child, the first one was a girl. So he had his baby boy. We went over for the celebration. I went with my dad. My wife didn't come. My mum didn't come. It was just me and my dad. It was really nice to go. So we actually got a picture of the 4 generations. So it's my dad, me, my son, and my grandson. And so it was very cool. It was a nice little. We only went for a weekend, but I was determined to find some time to meet up with Izzy. And so we made an arrangement on this. I think it was the Sunday night. And my father's in his 80s. And he's not really that self-sufficient. You know, he's been a hard-working man all his life, and he was used to coming home, dinner on the table. My mum also worked hard all her life, but they had a very, very, typical, solid relationship. And so my father never really made a meal in his life, literally. Hey, Jeffrey. So. Anyhow, so when we went away, we actually had the use of an apartment. My father and I stayed in this apartment, and so I cooked. I made all the meals, and we had a fantastic time. It was really fun. So I was a bit wary about leaving him, but he said, "No, go. You don't have to be tied to me. Don't want to stifle you. You want to go out, then go out, no problem." So I went out. It was about, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 in the evening. And I told him I'd be out for a few hours, but I don't think he realised how long that would be. And it ended up I came back about 10 o'clock, and he was in such a state because he had gotten a bit nervous. He was on his own in the flat, and he hadn't eaten, and he tried to use the phone to call me, and he couldn't use it. There was some issue with the phone, so he got really nervous. Anyway, when I got back, he was in a bit of a state, and I apologised to him. I felt really, really guilty. Made him some supper, and all was fine, but it's kind of brought home to me how fragile people are when they're a bit older. It certainly was a lesson anyway. Hey John, how you doing? Well, John, your beard is not quite there yet. You're not back to its original glory. But my wife doesn't like a long beard. I've grown it. I did once grow it out quite a bit, a good few inches, but she didn't like it, and she was giving me grief all the time, so I just cut it. I did want to grow it out and have a real sort of YTPC beard, but didn't happen. Daniel, for the most part, it's a pipe, but occasionally, as I've always said, sometimes it's a cigar, and a cigar just reaches places that the pipes can't, sometimes. Blowing those skit squares. Cheers, Dance Dad. All the best. Thanks for joining. You could even say Simon Bonaparte. Or blown apart. Hopefully not. The best Cuban cigar I've smoked. Well, actually, that wasn't that long ago. If you look back on my channel, I know my channel is very disorganized. Some people have said to me that I should split it up into groupings, whatever you call it. But I've never done that. I just go with the flow. Anywho, Jeffrey, I'm sorry to hear that, but I guess that's life. After they've gone, you feel like an orphan in a way. What do you mean in a way? You are an orphan. That's what happens, I guess, when you lose your parents, you're an orphan. But I suppose you mean even that when you yourself are already quite old. But yeah, absolutely. It's not. I'm sure it's not a good feeling at whatever age you are. In terms of the best cigar I had recently, Jeff, was a Hoyo de Monterrey Double Corona, and it was probably the best cigar I've ever had. I used to read. Hey, Justin, how you doing? Oh, what an honour. Jay Seldis, everybody. What an absolute honour. A good buddy of mine from, he's one of the guys that I have met actually, from Facebook. We met over Facebook and we've become firm friends over the last couple of years. I assume that's the same Jay Selvis. I can't see your handle, but I assume it's you. Oh yeah, I'm just looking at a channel. It is you, Sans Beard. It is. Nice, Jay. How you doing? Have you been to see AJ yet? So, a long lifetime ago, Justin and I, or Jay, we traded some. Jay was getting into pipe smoking. We traded a bunch of pipes, and he sent me a box of cigars. A glorious 2008 box of Ramon Ayones specially selected. A fantastic box of cigars, and I tried to make that box of cigars last, but sadly, it's no more. Jay will have to do another trade someday. I don't know if you've seen that I've been making pipes recently. Really been getting into it. And you still smoking a pipe every so often, Jay? You've just got to imagine that the two L's are a Y. So it's Ramon Ayones. Yeah, I've watched his videos as well, Daniel. I'm not at that stage yet, no. At the moment, I'm still drilling on the lathe. I mean, he drills on the lathe, but you're quite right. The more higher-end kind of pipe makers, they will follow the briar much more than I will. In other words, they will make the pipe shape before they drill it, and that way they get the best out of the grain. Whereas once you've drilled it, you have to at least leave room for the bowl and for the shank, and you're tied in to a shape to an extent. Good night, Northeast. All the best. Thanks for joining. But I think, Daniel, that's an area that I would probably go down much later, sort of further down in my pipe making experience, when I've got more time, if perhaps maybe semi-retired or something like that. I don't think it's something I'm going to do in the near future. Which is the better way to do it? Well, I think that if you want to be a high-end pipe maker and you really want to get the best out of the grain, so for instance, to give you a good example, if you're making a blowfish pipe, so the blowfish pipe you're going to want to have, so for instance, this pipe here, which I made not so long ago, lovely grain on the sides and very nice bird's eye there. So if it was a blowfish, most carvers would put the bird's eye on the side. So the idea of the blowfish, it should look like a fish. So you have the wagging tail at the back, and then the body is where the bowl is. So you'd have the bird's eye on the side and the cross grain going across. In order to achieve that, you'd have to, once you drill it, you have to make the bowl where you drill it. Now if it turns out that because when you sand the block to see where the grain is, that can change once you get into it. The block is that thick when you start. Once you've sanded it down, you're sanding it down to that thickness, it could change, and you have to adapt, and you have to sort of change the shape of the pipe. Once you've drilled it, you can do it to some extent, but you really are very limited in how much you can vary the shape of the pipe. If you haven't yet drilled it, you can do whatever you like. And then, even if you end up making it much, much smaller and thinner, you just make a thinner bowl. If you've already drilled it, say at 20 mil, you can't take it down to 17 or 18 mil after that, it's done. So when you look at some of the websites like Danish Pipe Shop or one of these websites, and you look at the high end and you wonder at how the grain is so perfectly positioned, that's why. It's because they shape the pipe before they drill it. Whereas with me, it's to some extent it's luck, because although I can get an idea of the grain, I've got no idea if it will actually stay that way by the time I get to the finished pipe. Hey Brandon, thanks for joining. Enjoy your dinner. Daniel, in terms of which way do I go, it really is a matter of what's inspired you and what type of shape you want to go for, and it depends on the grain. If the grain is really nice and straight, and you don't want to do a plateau, and you want to have a smooth pipe, so often you'll invert the block so that you get a really nice. Just to give you an idea, and this is actually something which I saw on Jay Allen's video. So this pipe would have been in a block which was that way up, and the plateau would have been on the top there, and you see the straight grain. If you turn it up, it will lend itself to a volcano shape very, very nicely. And I don't know who it was who he was quoting. It might have been Tom Eltang or somebody else, one of the other greats, maybe Lars Iversen or one of these guys, one of the great sort of masters, who said there are only two shapes in every single block. Everything else is a variation of it. It's either a volcano or a Dublin. So if you have it this way up, it's a volcano. If you have it that way up, it's a Dublin. And the grain goes out that way, it's a Dublin. If it goes that way, it's a volcano. Everything else is a variation of that. And that's actually where I learnt to really invert it to get, to make it look a bit straighter. And if you want to have a wider base, like a volcano shape, then that's the way to do it. Right, I think this bowl is done. I think this has actually got quite a nicotine hit as well. So Chad, I would definitely, I know you like a bit of a stronger smoke. If you like vapors, give this stuff a try. It's good stuff. Right, that one's basically done. The pipe with the blue stem You mean the bird's eye? Good night, John. Hope your recovery continues to go well. Are you referring to this one, Daniel? Which pipe are you talking about, Smoky Dragon? The one on the tray or the one in the bowl? So this is my latest pipe. This is pipe number 72, which I finished the other day. So this one has got the bird's eye on the bottom there. Really nice bird's eye. I think I might actually restain this pipe. I'm not happy with the colouring on that. I might just redo that. But really nice grain on this pipe. Couple of sand pits, but really very, very nice grain. Look at that, beautiful. This one is a Northern Briars. It's really quite a classic shape. It does look a bit like a Peterson. It's Northern Briars. He calls it a Quebec, the shape. And this pipe I use whenever I'm trying out a new, not always, but often when I'm trying a new blend. I just find it's a very good blank canvas. I don't know why, but it just is. And I tend to try new blends with that pipe. So I tried to get kind of some blue notes in the pipe. So this has got a blue tinge to the contrast, but I don't think it works. So I might just might sand this back and just go for a virgin look. Oh, I know which one you mean. Yeah, that's the special plateau, that one. You're talking about this pipe. This is, I think so far, to date, one of my favourite pipes that I've made. And I haven't quite brought myself to sell it or to smoke it yet. It's a quirky shape. But it's got some nice grain. And just look at that plateau, came out stunning. Good night, NJ Piper, thanks for joining. Hey, Outdoor Pipe Smoker UK. What made me choose the bottom plateau on this one? Well, when I saw the block, it just... I don't know. I don't remember is the honest answer. But I wanted to do something sort of Danish, kind of freehand looking. And I was looking just to make something arty. And I think it worked. I think it came out really well. So it's faced off here. So it's got some nice sort of edges there. It's definitely the artiest pipe that I've done so far. Really nice staining on this one as well. Quite an orange stain. I've got another block which potentially could give me something similar. I haven't toyed with it yet, and I'm kind of holding off on smoking this one to see if I can make something else similar, and then I might smoke this one. We shall see. But it was a bit of a struggle, I must admit. Drilling this pipe was quite a bit of a struggle, because this is a bend in the briar. Obviously, because it's plateau, I can't do anything with that shape. That's untouched. That's the end of the briar, and the shaping has to be done here. And in order to get a straight drill without coming through the top, it was a challenge, and it is drilled quite high. And I've basically, if you can see there, it is drilled high, but I've sculpted beneath it so that the airflow is good. If you can see that it's been sculpted there, internally, so that it will smoke fine. And you can still see the root there, it's pretty straight from the bowl, so that will smoke absolutely fine. The positioning, the way it comes out in the bowl is not perfect. It's a hair's breadth off to the, you can see it there, it's slightly off to the left. So if I did sell it, it would kind of be a seconds, but even though it's a seconds, it's still a cracking pipe. And I'm pretty sure it would smoke very, very well. One of the things which I'm still trying to ascertain is because I've not got a really high-end pipe myself, I haven't got one of the real masters. You know, I would love to be able to get maybe an S-Bang or a, I know they did some, they've stopped officially now, they've stopped making pipes. They've said that they're only going to make the odd few every year. But I would love to get an S-Bang pipe or some of the masters like the Lars Iverson. These kind of pipe makers, Tom Eltang, who occasionally does a 9mm pipe on his sort of pokers, his famous pokers, the rusticated pokers, just to see if, you know, if all of that fuss is justified. So there's no question that they put a huge amount of work into the internals of the pipe to make sure that the smoke path is completely unimpeded, and the amount of fluting that they do on the bit. I did it on one of my pipes. I think it was the lumper coal. So this one here, I spent a lot of time fanning out the bit, and there's probably a filter in there. So you can see there that it's a lot wider. I did quite a bit of work fanning out that bit, and I'm not sure whether there is a difference. Obviously there's other aspects to it as well, and being a 9mm pipe, you're not going to have that very smooth unimpeded smoke because you're hitting a filter as well, and you've got a great big 9mm chamber in there, so it's going to churn up the smoke as well, even if you smoke it without the filter. But somebody, it was at one of the pipe club meetings actually, maybe it was about 6 or 8 months ago, some of you might remember, there was a guy there with a Tom Eltang pipe, which Tom had actually gifted to him when he went to visit his workshop. And he said to me that if you smoke one of his pipes, you do not need to smoke a 9mm. You will not get tongue bite, and it just makes all the difference. And I've yet to experience that. Actually, Mike, you might be well qualified to talk about that, if there is a real, like a huge difference between the inner workings of a high-end pipe and perhaps not such a high-end pipe. If you read some of Rick Newcomb's books, you'll see, Daniel, that he has a philosophy of having a much wider open draft hole compared to a lot of the pipe carvers out there who will, their sort of ideal draft hole size will be about 3.5 mil, whereas his Rick Newcomb very much pushes the idea of a draft hole of about 4.3 mil. And I've always gone a little bit bigger than average. I've gone at 4 mil simply because mine are 9 mil, and just because some people feel that the filters constrict the draft a little bit, so I've made the draft hole a little bit wider to compensate for that. Have you experienced that yourself, Mike? Which kind of pipe would you say you've experienced it with? Good night, Smokey. Thanks for joining. Oh, yeah, really? Okay, that's good to know. So you would say, Mike, setting aside the branding and the fame and the scarcity of some pipes, even Castello, okay, you would say that about Castello, but and I accept what you're saying. I'm not joking. I'm not making fun. But only because you smoke so many Castellos, that's why I said that. But would you say that some of the pipes? I know this is probably you've been asked this probably many times. It's an old question, especially with the pipes like Dunhill, which essentially is still a factory pipe, although they're handmade, I would have thought, but still they are a factory pipe. And I've had many Dunhills pass through my hands which are very badly drilled. But in terms of the artisan pipe makers, like the J. Allens and the Eversons, the three of them, and the S. Bangs and the Yes Chonovitz, those kind of pipe makers, would you say that there really is so much difference in the quality of the smoke? I'd say the difference, Daniel, is roughly 3 mil. Oh right, yeah, you did say that before, Mike. Sorry. Excuse the rustling. Yeah, Daniel, I know, I was just kidding with you. Cheers, Chad. Have a good one. I think the day will come that I probably will get an L-Tang, but they're just a bit out of my... I think I have to maybe have a particularly good week selling a few pipes, and maybe I'll plumb to get one of those. I'm not sure if all of that is lost on a 9mm pipe or not. So if I was to get a 9mm L-Tang, whether there'll be a huge difference or not, I don't know. I don't know if you lose all of those internal expertise and sort of down to the last sort of 0.5 millimeter, the measurements and all of that. If you're smoking with a 9mm, the 9mm are generally quite inaccurate. There's usually quite a lot of room, so it'd be interesting to see if a 9mm from a master actually is a much snugger fit and the filter doesn't zoom backwards and forwards when you draw. All of that would be interesting, and I try to keep mine also to fit well, but it's not always possible. You're quite right, Daniel. I do have a 606, but it was actually made as a 9mm, not as a 6mm. I didn't drill it to 9, it was already a 9mm. And it was just by chance. It's the second pipe I bought in my life. I'm pretty sure it was the one after the Butts Shaquan. Sadly, Butts Shaquan is now no more. But the second pipe I bought was that 606. I think I bought it in Davidoff's on St James's, but it was 9mm. And for a long time, I smoked it without anything in it. I think I smoked the Balsa 9mm Balsa filters that came with it, and once I'd smoked through those, I think I did buy a few more here and there, but I wasn't dedicated to it, and I just smoked it without anything. I didn't even sort of consider that there would be a difference, and I just smoked. In that pipe. I smoked mostly Blood Red Moon, Cult Blood Red Moon, without a filter. And I guess that chamber acted as a bit of a mini sort of reverse calabash kind of idea. But I didn't know the difference at the time. I wouldn't have known one way or the other, to be honest. Smoke something nice, says Jay. What did you have in mind there, Jay? I had actually earlier today, I had what's it called? A selection number 2, but I can't remember the Juan Lopez. That was it. I had a Juan Lopez selection number 2, which I've had in my humidor for about a year and a half. I think the box date is around the middle of 2018, so they've got about a year and a half on them. Not bad, getting there. Certainly better than when I got them, but I did enjoy that smoke. I smoked that on the way to my bar mitzvah job that I had earlier tonight, and on the way back, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. The Peterson tobaccos, they're going to be exactly the same as the Dunhill tobaccos. There will be no difference at all. They're exactly the same blend. So any of the Dunhill blends that you liked will taste the same under the Peterson banner. First pipe was an LJ Peretti in Boston 35 years ago, Ken. It probably smokes like a dream nowadays, if you've still got it. You want me to try the coin cut tobacco? You're still hesitant to buy a filter pipe. Like, what if I like it, then I have 7 pipes to get rid of? Well, you could always put an adapter into the pipe if you're not terribly excited by the idea of a filter pipe. Try it out, see if you like it. If you don't, just put an adapter into it, and if you do like it, then yes, I guess you will have to start thinking about, but to be honest with you, Boris, if you're happy with your other pipes, I wouldn't do it. I don't see the upside. I really don't see the upside. If I didn't have to smoke a filtered pipe, I probably wouldn't, and I'd have access to 100 times more selection of pipes. I would be able to buy, high-end pipes on the estate market much easier. And as it is, I'm buying still estate pipes, but they have to be 9mm. And for me, I find that a restriction. Although I'm very happy with it, and it's probably a good idea so that I don't end up buying so many pipes. But I would stick to, if you don't need it, if you're happy with non-filtered, I would stick to it. Unless you were sort of considering it for health reasons or anything like that. But the difference between it, I don't know. If I don't move this little blue stem smoke poker, yeah, you can buy it by all means. It's on the market, it's available. It's one of, how many have I got now at the moment unsold? I can give you a quick summary of the pipes that I've got. They've been selling quite nicely. So there's this one. This is my most recent pipe that I made. This is pipe number 72. This is pipe number 71, which I just refinished earlier tonight. This is an older one which I refinished again tonight. Just made it a little bit more perfect. The shape is fantastic on this pipe. And reworked the button. The button is now as I like them to be. I still have this one. This is the only non-9mm that I have. Beautiful plateau on the top there. That's the only non-9mm. So that's available at 110 if anybody wants it. And then we have this gorgeous Volcano. Nice grainy pipe. Nice bird's eye on the rim, curved rim, and a plateau base. That's that one. Next one is a billiard, which I've had for quite some time, which was the first foray into making a band. Also a plateau top. Really nice grain on this one. PA Piper, how you doing? That one's still available. This is also one of the recent pokers that I made. Also a nice plateau, really big bowl, very big bowl. Rusticated part, but unstained. And we still have this one. I might actually rework this one and make it a sitter. I might put an angle on that so that it stands. So it's a sitter, or dancing pipe, whatever you call it. I've still got this one. This angel wing, I call it. Beautiful grain on this. Plateau. Reverse plateau. That one was last week's. I was offering it up live at these prices, reduced from 175 to 130. Yes, Ken. Eventually, they probably will go on eBay when I've got the time to do it. I find eBay to be quite time-consuming because I'm just a little bit fussy, so I won't put them on unless I've really taken some good quality pictures. And even though here I just show them live, but if I'm going to put them on eBay, I need to do it properly, and that takes time. I really do like Canadian shaped pipes. I really do like that shape. Only problem with that is that with 9mm they're not really that Canadian looking, because they're quite rounded. They're really not flat enough. They're more oval because of the 9mm factor, so the shank has to be quite thick. So to give you an example, this is a Northern Briars Canadian, which I ordered not so long ago, and you could see there that it is Canadian. You know, it is flat-ish, but it's not really that flat. So you can see it's an oval shape, but it's really, look how much sort of square footage that 9mm hole takes, you know. Oh no, it's still here, Josh. Not sure where it is now. There it is. That's oh, I haven't stamped it yet. I really do need to get myself a proper stamp. I keep saying it. I did do a bit of research the other day, and I almost pulled the trigger on a company that does branding. So to get an icon made for letterheads, for stamps, for, you know, that kind of thing, but haven't gone with it yet. So this is a naked, rusticated Quasimodo isn't stamped. You know what my brain is like. I'm sorry about that, Josh. One day, if you want to send it back to me for stamping, maybe just wait until I get a proper stamp, and then I'll stamp it for you, of course. This one came out fantastic. Really nice. Good dimensions. Really classic kind of shape. Billiard. It's not a Lovat, no, Daniel. It's definitely a Canadian. A Lovat usually would be a saddle bit stem as well, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it would be, yes, you're right, it would be a very short stem. I do actually want to make a proper Lovat at some point. I suppose this one, it's not quite, it's a little bit too chunky for that. This is a billiard I made pretty early on, and this is a stem which I made from scratch as well. A really nice Cumberland or brindle, but which I messed up and I had to fill it in with glue, hence I smoked it myself. But I suppose you could call this a Lovat because the shank is longer than the height of the bowl. But I don't know, maybe Mike can give us the verdict on that, if you're still here, Mike. Right, everybody, I think we're going to call it a day. Unless anybody's got any particular questions. Silver Stars, just seen you. Hi, thanks for joining. If it looks like a Lovat to you, Daniel, it's a Lovat. But I don't think it is, personally. But anyway, Daniel, thanks very much once again for joining. Josh, Ken, PA Piper, Ken, Outdoor Pipe Smoker UK, Silver Star 7 again, North Country Fisher, OCD, Snoopy, Jay, my good friend Jay, thank you for joining. It's a real pleasure to see you. We should really get together very, very soon. Perhaps we'll get together at number 6. That would be cool. If you are planning on coming into London, do let me know. Definitely have to make a date. Boris, thank you very much for joining. And Mike, Barre Blues, Tree, Josh, Chad, who's now gone, and everybody else, thank you very, very much. Enjoyed it once again, and I will catch you all on the next one. I hope that meeting does happen. Yes, Mike, I am hoping to meet Andrew Sirigliano, aka the Blue Vein Piper. Hopefully we'll meet up tomorrow. He's probably out on the Raz tonight getting drunk, doing a pub hop, a pub crawl. Put it this way, whenever he goes on holiday, he does seem to go on a pub crawl, doesn't he? Especially here in the UK. If I do meet him tomorrow, I hope he's going to be somewhat lucid. Alright, everybody. Thanks again. Catch you on the next one.